But last night, despite all the other news organizations that are now working on this, last night it was the New York Times that, again, blew the doors off this story with sort of a monumental gross-out advance. The Times reported late last night that it was not just that one alleged relationship with an underage girl that federal investigators were looking at in terms of the congressman. Rather, they were looking at Congressman Gaetz's alleged involvement with multiple women who were recruited online for sex and received cash payments. According to the Times, Joel Greenberg, the tax collector guy, met the women through websites that connect people who go on dates in exchange for money and gifts, which isn't exactly prostitution if you kind of do it exactly right. But he then introduced the women reportedly to Congressman Gaetz, who also had sex with these women, who again had entered into a sort of remunerative relationship for this. The Times says it reviewed receipts from mobile payment apps that showed payments from Gaetz and Greenberg to at least two women. And those women told their friends that the payments were for having sex with those two men. In addition to Congressman Gaetz and Joel Greenberg, the Times also had this detail that one of the women also had sex with a, quote, unidentified associate of theirs, meaning an unidentified associate of Congressman Gaetz and Joel Greenberg in Florida Republican politics. Now, we should note that Congressman Gaetz hasn't been charged with any crime. He firmly denies that he ever paid for sex or had any relationship with any underage girls. But the story keeps developing in ways that are more and more uncomfortable to talk about. But now we're in the middle of it, aren't we? Joining us now is Katie Benner, New York Times reporter who covers the Justice Department. Katie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you for sort of riding out those technical difficulties with us. I appreciate it.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.
So let me first just ask you if I am explaining the story correctly, and if you feel like generally the way the story is being discussed nationally comports with what you've been able to report. Are there elements of this that are being broadly misconstrued, or do you think people broadly understand the parameters of what investigators are looking at here?
Yeah, I think that people do broadly understand the parameters. What began with an investigation, to your point, into a very local Florida politician has mushroomed, and it's ensnared Congressman Gaetz. One of the things that is emerging from this, from our reporting, is the relationship between the two men. It has become clearer and clearer that it is Joel Greenberg who makes initial overtures to women. It's Joel Greenberg who's primarily sending the messages to them that we've seen that say, please meet here at this hotel. There's $1,000 for you if you come. You know, those are the sorts of things that Joel Greenberg is doing. It's his name on many of the receipts. It really looks like he's the person responsible. But whether or not he's the person in charge is the open question, because then he quickly hands everybody off to Congressman Gaetz, where they engage in sexual relations. So that's one thing that's emerging, this relationship between Greenberg and Gaetz. And that's important because we're seeing the government put pressure on Greenberg as we speak, ratcheting up the charges. If he is indicted on the child sex trafficking charge, that is a mandatory 10-year minimum sentence. There's no way out of that, no matter how lenient the judge is on other charges. He is really facing some very, very severe penalties, and they are clearly trying to pressure him in order to get him to give them more information on other people they would like more information about, possibly including Congressman Gaetz.
Is there any indication at this point, Katie, that Mr. Greenberg is cooperating with prosecutors?
We've not seen any indication of that. He has remained defiant. He's pled not guilty. So we really don't know what's going to happen. But we also know that the investigators, they're aware of other men involved in these sexual relationships. You know, we've spoken with people who talk about some of the interviews that some of these women may have given, where they talk about people who they've had sex with who are neither Congressman Gaetz nor Mr. Greenberg, but who are associates of theirs, and who say they slept with them because they were asked to. So that's another element that we're looking at, possibly a wider ring of men beyond just Gaetz and Greenberg.
And there was the phrasing around that part of the story seemed quite specific, that at least one additional man described in conjunction with these allegations is another man involved in Florida Republican politics. Is that the sort of the way this seems to be going, that this may be all people who have sort of political connections to one another?
For now, what we've seen is that for now, what we are hearing, what we're reporting is that it is men involved in Florida politics, possibly donors. We have not seen it go beyond Florida for now.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.